Okay, so now we're going to look at fractional distance. Okay, we're going to look at fractional distance. Now, fractional distance is exactly like it sounds. It is a fraction of the distance. Okay, it's a fraction of the distance. So when we're looking at for the fraction of the distance, what we're going to do is try to find the whole distance first. If you look at the picture that I've drawn here, sorry, I'm multitasking. If you look at the picture that I've drawn here, I've located G and P already for you because they come from here. Okay, they come from here. G was at -10 and P was at 5. So the fractional distance is it's asking you to actually find the distance. Okay, it's actually asking you to find a piece of the distance. Fractional is piece. You guys have done this before. You have to be good with fractions. You have to be comfortable with fractions. If you're not comfortable with fractions, you're not going to be able to do the fractional distance formula because you have to do multiplications. And we don't always want to rely on the calculator. Okay? So when I look at fractional distance, I'm going to look at how far apart they are total, first of all. So let's use our absolute value. And why don't we have Snoopy help? Because we've had animals help each aspect of this review. Yes, I'm being strange tonight. This is what happens when you have no sleep and you're tired and you're doing reviews. Anyway, so now, well, what's that, Snoopy? Oh, he doesn't want to be there. Okay, so anyway, find the point that is a third of the distance from G to P. Well, first of all, let's find out how far G and P are apart. Well, remember, the distance is the absolute value of the difference, okay? So I'm going to use a different color so you can see it. Always write the formula, and then I've got -10 to 5, okay? -10 minus 5 is -15. The absolute value of that is 15. That means that these two guys are 15 units apart, okay? Now, I'm going from G to P. And I can't get my marker back on. Oh, well, who cares? So I'm going to start at G. This indicates G is my starting point. That's important. I'm going this way. So I want to go 1/3 of the distance from G to P. I don't want to go that whole 15. I only want to go 1/3 of it. So I'm going to go 1/3 of that distance, which is 15. 1/3 of 15 is the same thing as 1/3 times 15, okay? I'm going to make that 15 over 1, so I get 15 over 3, which is 5. So instead of going from -10, 15 units to 5, I only want to go 5 units. So I'm going to add 5. Start at -10 and add 5, and where are you going to end up? Good job! You'll end up at -5. Okay? That is the point that is 1/3 of the distance from G to P. I didn't want to go the whole 15. I only wanted to go 1/3 of the 15. 1/3 of the 15 is 5. So instead of going from -10 to 5 and adding 15 units, I only wanted to go 5 units. That puts me at -5 on the number line, right there. Okay? Now it's important that you understand directions, because it says here they're going to go from G to P. What if I'd put P to G? Now what is my starting point? My starting point is now P. So when I go that 5 units, I'm going to go this way. So if I start at 5 and go 5 units that way to the left, I'm going to end up at 0. Do you see how I get 2 completely different answers depending on what I have? Okay, so you have to be able to recognize which one is your starting point. Okay, so let's look at one more. I've got one more fractional distance for you. Okay, so this one says find the point that is 4/7 of the way, 4/7 of the way distance from W to Y. Okay, from W to Y. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to draw I'm going to draw my number line. Now, if I go back to the original question, where's W located? W is located at 8, and Y is -6. So W is located at 8, and Y is located at -6. Okay, so that's what I have on my number line. Any questions so far? Oh wait, you can't ask any. Okay, so now the question is, how do I find the fraction that I'm looking for? Well, what's the fraction I'm looking for? 4/7, right? Well, first of all, let's figure out what the total, okay, what the exact total is. Well, for the total, I'm going to find the distance. I'm going to use the absolute value formula. Oh man, these things are not cooperating. I just threw something on the floor, but that's not important right now. So anyway, I'm going to go from -6 to 8. You could also put 8 first. It doesn't matter. So -6 minus 8 is -14. And the absolute value of that, the absolute value of -14 is 14. So that means that these guys are how far apart? You guessed it. They are 14 units apart. Okay? But I do not want to go 14 units. I don't want to go 14 units. I only want to go 4/7 of the way. From where? W. W is green. W is where we start. So which way are we going? This way. So once you get your fractional distance, you have to take that into account. So I want to go 4/7, and what was my distance? 14. 4/7 of 14, so 4 times 14 is 56. 7 times 1 is 7, is actually 8. So I want to go 8 units this way, which is going to be to subtract 8, right? Well, if W's at 8 and I go 8 units that way, where am I going to end up? At 0. I'm going to end up at 0.